Covert narcissists are quite difficult to detect. They can go for years without being detected. Why are they so hard to detect? Because these individuals are more quiet and introverted, so their narcissism is not so apparent. Sometimes we can mistaken a quiet, introverted person as humble and empathetic, but in actual fact, they may not be. They might quietly believe that they're superior and others around them are inferior, and quietly not care or be interested in other people's feelings or emotions. But you don't know this because a lot of these attitudes take place in their hearts and their minds. They just don't say it. I'd say these types of narcissists cause way more damage than overt narcissists because they're harder to detect and they can carry on their abuse much longer. And also because they are covert, people second guess their experiences a lot more. What if I could give you 3 easy things that you could look out for that could signal that you might be dealing with a covert narcissist? This is what this video is all about. Now, first, before we get into it, for those of you who are new to my channel, welcome. I'm Shaneen Megji. Welcome to my channel on Toxicity is Not Your Destiny. I create these videos to help you navigate toxic relationships in your life from a biblical, practical, and spiritual perspective. So if you'd like to receive regular content from me about every week or so, subscribe to my channel and click on the bell so that you can be notified every time I upload a video. So without further ado, let's dive into the subject. You might think that a quiet, introverted person is humble, empathetic, self-effacing, maybe shy, maybe in need of encouragement or support, but that is not necessarily true. You could be dealing with a covert narcissist who conceals their grandiosity and manipulative tendency behind their quiet, introverted nature. There's a famous Bible verse that says, out of the outflow of the heart, the mouth speaks. So you can learn a lot about what is in a person's heart by listening carefully to what they say, and even don't say. But how do you do that with a person of few words? This is where you have to be extra alert and pay attention to the subtleties and also patterns. Patterns is a big thing because if something is happening repeatedly enough, you might be bumping into massive icebergs in a person. And we all know that it was an iceberg that sunk the Titanic. So here are 3 big signs to watch for, which could be hidden icebergs to detect a covert narcissist. Number 1, you are encountering a person who is extremely sensitive to criticism and constructive feedback, or they perceive slights against them when there are none. It's this high level of sensitivity to criticism combined with a hidden sense of superiority that is the red flag that you may be bumping into a covert narcissist. So I'm not talking about one or the other, but it's the combination of these 2 things in concert together, both the sensitivity to criticism and the grandiosity. And the reason these 2 things together are a red flag is because they're mismatched. They don't add up. A person who is grandiose and superior ought to have a level of inner security and strength that is in proportion to that level of greatness. But if they're coming apart at the slightest criticism or feedback, something is deeply amiss. They're portraying an image of who they see themselves to be rather than who they really are. To become the caliber of person that a narcissist presents themselves to be, they have to be open to constructive feedback from other sources to be able to cultivate that kind of growth. But if they're incredibly sensitive to any feedback while having this hidden grandiosity, that is a big sign to pay attention to. So how do these 2 things manifest at the same time? You could be dealing with a person who has a disproportionate reaction to any form of criticism. They become defensive or sulk or withdraw, no matter how constructive or mild your criticism is. Instead of owning up or accepting feedback gracefully, they justify their actions or shift the blame, or they might argue with you or counter-criticize, Or they might have an over-the-top emotional reaction where they get angry or tearful or become very distressed. And remember, I'm talking about a repeated chronic pattern here, not a one-off thing where a person might overreact because they're having a bad day or they've allowed some negative feelings to build up over time like a volcano. So I'm not talking about those situations because any one of us can fall into that from time to time, but I'm talking about a modus operandi. A person who is overly sensitive to criticism might react by harboring resentment or holding a grudge against you, even if you meant well and gave your feedback in love. If they know you're not afraid to give them feedback, they might avoid you altogether or avoid situations that put them in a scenario where they have to receive feedback or have their performance reviewed. They might frame you as overly harsh and an unfair critic, and that they are the misunderstood victim or the person who is suffering a great injustice. They might exaggerate the criticism you gave to make it appear more severe than it actually was, to gain sympathy from the people around them, or deflect from their own flaws and failures. And yet, while they are so fragile and habitually respond to feedback this way, they believe they are superior to everyone else. And this sense of superiority might come through as a quiet disdain for others that they perceive as inferior, or people they envy who receive more attention or recognition than them. Or they might habitually talk negatively about flaws and weaknesses that they perceive in other people, or engage in smear campaigns. Now, on a little side note, if you have gone through narcissistic abuse in a previous relationship and you're looking to cultivate healthy relationships in your life going forward, I put together a free ebook on how to spot a narcissist at the beginning of a relationship. So hopefully you can save yourself any heartache. You can get a free copy of this book by clicking in the link in the description box below. So let's move on to the second big sign to watch out for a covert narcissist. Sign number 2, feigned empathy coupled with lack of genuine interest. You might encounter a person who appears to be empathetic and concerned about others, often making a show of being a good listener or offering help. This feigned empathy is a strategic tool for a covert narcissist to enhance their image, to gain social favor. However, this displayed concern is often superficial, it's often self-serving, it lacks genuine interest and an emotional investment in the well-being of others. The mismatch between their displayed empathy and their true intentions is a critical sign that you might be dealing with a covert narcissist. Genuine empathy involves a deep, consistent interest in other people's feelings and experiences, which will show itself as being supportive and understanding. In contrast, though, a covert narcissist's empathy is often conditional, it's transient, it's primarily activated when it serves their needs for validation or admiration or control. You could be dealing with a person who offers help or sympathy only in situations where they know they will be publicly acknowledged or where it will improve their social standing. That person might volunteer to assist someone in distress, but then quickly lose interest or disappear once the opportunity for praise or recognition has passed. When you're dealing with a person like this, you might find that their conversations often shift back to their own experiences or achievements, or they might be very supportive, but then there are strings attached that you don't find out about until later. For example, a covert narcissist might offer to help a colleague with a difficult project, but only to ensure that they are seen as generous and capable. They might frequently bring up their own acts of kindness in the conversation in order to subtly fish for compliments or admiration. And over time, you might notice that their concern fades when the situation no longer benefits them, or they might become resentful if their efforts don't give them the kind of recognition or appreciation that they were looking for. Furthermore, they might engage in what is known as emotional blackmail, where they use their feigned empathy to manipulate others into fulfilling their needs. And this can involve things like guilt tripping you, where they remind you of how much they've done for you to imply that you owe them. Or they might use their sensitivity to others people's issues to gather information that they could later use to control or manipulate those individuals. So this pattern of behavior creates quite a dissonance. So you have the outward appearance of being caring and empathetic contrasted sharply with this person's underlying self-interest and lack of genuine concern. So over time, the people who are close to that covert narcissist may actually start to feel used or manipulated. And they might recognize that the empathy that they initially perceived was actually a facade. So it's also important to pay attention to your gut feelings and how you feel in certain situations and interactions with people, because those feelings can be an indication of something deeper going on that may not be easily perceived. By recognizing these repeated behaviors and recognizing the lack of consistency of genuine interest in their actions, you can better identify a covert narcissist. And remember, this is about chronic patterns, not one-off behaviors. Number 3, the third sign of a covert narcissist is quiet competitiveness with underlying envy. So you might encounter a person who seems to be humble and non-competitive on the surface, but there's this quiet underlying competitiveness that is fueled by this deep-seated envy. This covert competitiveness combined with envy is another sign that you might be dealing with a covert narcissist. The reality is that genuine humility and non-competitiveness should not coexist with this constant drive to outdo others and a chronic sense of envy. A person who is truly humble and content does not feel the need to compete with others or feel threatened by their success. But if someone exhibits quiet competitiveness while harboring envy, then there's definitely a red flag there. This person is portraying an image of being unassuming and self-effacing while internally striving to outshine others. So how do these things show up? You might have a person who downplays their own achievements while subtly undermining others. You might have a person who gives backhanded compliments that seem supportive on the surface, but there's this jab underneath it or this undercurrent of criticism. For example, they might say, "Oh, I'm surprised you got that promotion, but I guess everyone can get lucky sometimes." This type of remark really reveals the envy and also this quiet competitiveness. A covert narcissist's quiet competitiveness can also drive them to engage in passive-aggressive behaviors. They might do things like spread rumors or engage in subtle sabotage to ensure that other people don't surpass them. For instance, they might withhold important information or not give credit where credit is due, all while maintaining an outward appearance of being neutral or supportive. They might also frame their envy-driven actions as concern or advice, making it difficult for others to really see their true motives. A covert narcissist might feel slighted if they're not acknowledged for their contributions, even in situations where such recognition is not warranted. And this can lead to feelings of resentment and a sense of being underappreciated, which can further fuel their competitiveness and their envy. If they feel overshadowed, they might become resentful or engage in behaviors aimed at diminishing the perceived competition. Remember, a person displaying true humility will be genuinely happy for other people's successes without feeling threatened or envious, while a covert narcissist's quiet competitiveness and underlying envy will often be revealed through their consistent, subtle attempts to undermine those around them. So understanding the traits and behaviors of a covert narcissist is really crucial for protecting yourself from their subtle and often damaging influence. These individuals can blend seamlessly into social and professional environments, making it easy to misinterpret their actions and overlook their manipulative tendencies. By staying alert to the nuanced signs of covert narcissism, hopefully you can better discern the true nature of those around you and take steps to maintain healthy, life-giving relationships. If you recognize these patterns in someone close to you, it's important to set boundaries and hopefully to get some support from trusted friends or family or a coach. Trust your gut and pay attention to your feelings when you're interacting with people. And I would also encourage you to invite God to speak to you about your relationships and to show you who are the people that He would have you have in your life and who are the people not to. and to engage him in the process, because he can reveal things to you as well, things that your gut instincts may not pick up, because covert narcissists are incredibly difficult to detect, and sometimes, as I mentioned, it can take years, sometimes even decades to detect them. But through prayer, God can supernaturally engineer circumstances that bring up the red flags of a person that you're with. So definitely prayer is powerful. So I hope the insights in this video were helpful. If you would like to get more understanding of activities that you can engage in to detect a covert narcissist, check out a video that I created. And if you'd like to receive more content from me on a regular basis, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. And if you'd like to access my ebook on how to detect a narcissist at the beginning of a relationship, click on the link in the description box below. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.